And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And God himself will be with them, and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away.
The image of heaven from Revelations. The picture of heaven carried in the minds of men for 2,000 years. It has been the hope of people suffering from plagues, starvation, injustice, oppression, ignorance, fear, and death. And of course, for many people, the grind and disappointment of their present lives are made bearable by the thought of eternal bliss to follow when they have died. But those same people will hold firmly to the view that God is omnipresent, that he lives everywhere. In that case, he must live here, now. But is there any evidence of his presence? Is heaven just a place of almost unbelievable light and happiness? Or can we see it, at least its reflection, in the world now? Or perhaps, is it here in its entirety now?
Here, on Earth? Now? He must be joking.
And I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is in the light of the suns, and the round ocean, and the living air, and the blue sky, and in the mind of man. A motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thoughts, and rolls through all things.
Wordsworth's experience of a sense of the integrity and harmony of things.
But is there a heaven? You know, an actual place.
Hang on, he's only just started.
Oh, I bet he'll dodge the issue. They always do.
Another poem Wordsworth called Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood. And that could stand at least partly as a title for us. Intimations of Immortality. Those glimpses, those fleeting moments when we are aware of a groundswell of feeling, of life itself, that underlies the turbulence of often apparently chaotic movement on the surface. We see the struggle, the conflict of the sea, the wind, the shore. But it is accidental. The waves crash on the shore because it happens to be there, but it would move nonetheless, even if the shore were removed. It moves in response to the pull of the moon, the movement of the universe. It is part of the total pattern of things. The struggle is on the surface. The movement below is inexorable. And it is the awareness of that movement, that sense of something far more deeply interfused, that is our glimpse of heaven, our step on the ground of our being.
The ground of being?
He's talking about heaven.
Here lies a poor woman who was always tired. She lived in a house where help wasn't hired. Her last words on earth were, "Dear friends, I am going to where there's no cooking or washing or sewing. Don't mourn for me now, don't mourn for me never. I'm going to do nothing forever and ever."
If God is everywhere, he is here now. If God lives in heaven, it is here now.
If you lived in my house, you wouldn't say that.
we are faced with a world divided and torn apart. We see communities fighting communities. We see nations grow fat and die of overeating. We see nations waste away and die of starvation. And over us hangs a cloud, a pillar of fire that could consume us all, fat, thin, rich, and poor. How can we say that heaven is with us now?
And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice that said, "What dost thou here?"
That's a good question.
Can we believe in the still small voice in the storm? Can we see in the bleeding world a healing force? Is there really heaven here now? Because if its possibility is not here and now, it's nowhere. The secret, if it is a secret, is in love. Not only in the great charge of love that mystics have seen sweeping through the galaxies, but in the love between one man and another. One man and his wife, a mother for her child, a man for a garden, a woman for her home, a little boy for his collection of shells, a little girl for her dolls. It is the impulse from deep within us that moves us towards each other, towards the natural world, and to the works of man. Of course, some mystics have claimed to see heaven itself.
Oh, he's starting now.
I saw eternity the other night, like a great ring of pure and endless light, all calm as it was bright. And round beneath it time, in hours, days, years, driven by the spheres, like a vast shadow moved, in which the world and all her train were hurled.
Vaughan projected himself into the galaxies. Keats felt their power on Earth.
Though the most beautiful creature were waiting for me at the end of a journey or a walk, my happiness would not be so fine as my solitude is sublime. There is sublimity to welcome me home. The roaring of the wind is my wife, and the stars through the window pane are my children. The mighty abstract idea I have of beauty in all things stifles the more divided and minute domestic happiness.
Wordsworth felt this beauty even in the works of man.
But how could you say London is in heaven?
Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. This city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning, silent, bare. Ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky. All bright and glittering in the smokeless air, never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendor, valley, rock, or hill. Ne'er saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still.
If heaven is here, it is precisely in this awareness. Heaven is the movement towards, but not the charge, the seizing, the taking of possession. It is the movement towards whilst open, receptive, accepting. Love is acceptance. When we say, I love you, it means I accept you as you are. I do not want to invade you, possess you, make you mine. Love is not saying you are mine. It is saying you are yours, and I love what you are. And the invitation is irresistible. The great power of love rests on its refusal to compel.
In my service is perfect freedom.
And love can be open to every particle of creation.
To see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour.
Blake saw heaven in everything. Like our mental picture of hell, our pictures of heaven are based on the work of artists through the ages.
All the multitude of angels with a shout, loud as from numbers without numbers, sweet as from blessed voices, uttering joy, heaven rung with jubilee, and loud hosannas fill the eternal regions. No voice exempt, no voice but well could join melodious part, such concord is in heaven.
The words are Milton's. An earlier description, Dante's, captures the same exciting harmonies.
O grace abounding, wherein I presume to fix my look on the eternal light so long that I consumed my sight thereon. Within its depths I saw ingathered, bound by love in one volume, the scattered leaves of all the universe, substance and accidents and their relations as though fused together, after such fashion that what I tell of is one simple flame.
The same vision, a vision of harmony. The great work of art expresses this underlying unity of things and allows us a glimpse of the universal.
You see, it's all those words. Underlying unity, universal. If it's real, why can't it be simple?
The discipline of the artist is to find a unity, a simplicity in things. That is what art is about, and life. As in a favorite subject of artists, the mother and child. The lines, the color, the forms show the bond between mother and child. The pictures express the harmony of new life enfolded and nurtured by the old.
I did not know you were so strong as you gripped my hand to ebb the baby limp onto the sheet. The sea drags its feet over the pebbles, loath to be lost to the land. Then you brushed my hand aside as the tide flowed back, and you locked him in the womb of your arms. For the sea and the rock pool, there are no more tides.
It's easy, isn't it? You've only got to show a mother and baby and everyone goes, ah. But it doesn't prove a thing.
But even if the subject is about violence, the artist seeks to find the unity beneath the struggle. The figures are in conflict, and the artist shows this. But again, the line, the color, the forms seek for the unity. Although the men are fighting, they inhabit the same world. The artist states again and again the great truth. Violence is accidental. It is not a necessary part of life. Unity is essential. It is of the essence of things.
If violence is only accidental, there's a hell of a lot of it.
Violence is accidental. Conflict is essential. Man is just beginning to grasp the immensity of the universe. It has baffled, awed, and stimulated him down the ages.
I kiss my hand to the stars, lovely asunder starlight, wafting him out of it, and glow, glory in thunder. Kiss my hand to the dappled with damson west, since though he is under the world's splendor and wonder, his mystery must be in stressed. For I greet him the days I meet him, and bless when I understand.
It is love the poet feels, love for all creation. At some times we all feel love for one part of creation or another.
Somewhere I have never traveled, gladly beyond any experience, your eyes have their silence. In your most frail gesture are things which enclose me, or which I cannot touch because they are too near.
The voice of your eyes, the poet says. The eyes are the mirror of the soul, another says. And in those phrases we share the poet's awareness of communion and harmony, more profound than words, deeper than sense.
It could be just sex.
Here.
This physical expression of love, the movement of bodies together, at the climactic moment, the very merging of bodies, of consciousness becoming ecstatic in union, is for most of us the very key to the nature of things. And work can be like this. The hands and mind coming together with the inanimate materials of the world. And there is the moment of joy, the climax, when the work itself leads to a new perception of unity. The artist is privileged only in that his is one of the direct paths to joy in work. The scientist, too, can directly experience this joy. The chemist, who brings together the elemental building blocks to make new compounds. The physicist, finding in the observation of matter patterns uniting space and mass and time. Out of the thousands of measurements taken, the great scientist makes a profoundly simple pattern. Newton's formula, a simple pattern, but bringing together ideas about the movement of the universe that have held for over 200 years. Einstein's formula, still a simple expression, but an extra dimension, time.
I never could do sums.
But the creative artist and the creative scientist are merely the pinnacle of a mountain of workers, all engaged on unifying activity. In themselves, in their work, they are the universe. Because the impulse is to unity. This sense of ultimate oneness is not only Christian, All the great religions of the world have at their core the idea of unity, of a heaven where there is no violence, no discord. In Book 9 of the Hindu Gospel, the Bhagavad Gita, we hear,
This entire universe is pervaded by me, in that eternal form of mine which is not manifest to the senses. Although I am not within any creature, all creatures exist within me. I do not mean that they exist within me physically. That is my divine mystery. You must try to understand its nature. My being sustains all creatures and brings them to birth, but has no physical contact with them. These, when the round of ages is accomplished, I gather back to the seed of their becoming. These I send forth again at the hour of creation.
again we see this oneness expressed by the 13th century Muslim mystic Ibn Arabi.
Praise be to God, before whose oneness there was not a before, unless the before were he, and after whose singleness there is not an after, except the after be he. He is, and there is with him no after, nor before, nor above, nor below, nor far, nor near, nor union, nor division, nor how, nor when, nor where, nor times, nor moment, nor age, nor being, nor place. He is the one without oneness, the single without singleness.
And how similar is Wordsworth's expression of a similar idea of the all-pervading God.
To every form of being is assigned an active principle, however removed from sense and observation. It subsists in all things, in all natures, in the stars of azure heaven, the unenduring clouds, in flower and tree, in every pebbly stone that paves the brooks, the stationary rocks, the moving waters, and the invisible air. Whate'er exists hath properties that spread beyond itself.
And the Christian God as seen by St. John the Divine in Revelations.
And I saw and I heard a voice of many angels round about the throne, and the living creatures and the elders. And the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands and thousands, saying with a great voice, Worthy is the Lamb that has been slain to receive the power and the riches and the wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing.
All over the world at all times, men have seen God as that which informs and inhabits the whole creation. All over the world at all times, men have seen heaven as union with each other and with God. And all over the world at all times, artists, the voice of mankind, have felt and communicated the impulse to unity. And in our own time, some men have seen that impulse to unity as God, the God of love, the God who says God is love.
With all that agreement going on, you wouldn't think that the religions have spent a lot of time cutting each other's throats, would you?
They're still doing it in some places.
But if the experience of unity is so compelling, what prevents it? Why is Dante's heaven set on a mountaintop only to be reached with great difficulty? Why must the yogi spend many lifetimes of rigorous self-discipline to achieve his heaven, nirvana? Because there is hell, the principle of dissolution, of violent parting, of separation, division, death. It is the cosmic dialectic, the universal argument. It is the nature of matter to make itself into richer and richer patterns. It is called evolution.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void. And darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved on the face of the waters.
Slowly, over eons of time, matter came together into primitive forms of minerals and solids, then primitive bacteria-like life. It is the nature of matter to do this. Gradually, more and more cells came together, assimilating the earlier forms. Matter, life, became more and more complex. A new environment created, a new environment inhabited. At each stage, the new life assimilates the old, transcends the old. But the old remains in embryo. The old loses to the new. The new mammals take over the territory of the old reptiles. The mammals become more and more complex. And then a decisive step, a change in the mode of being. The mind becomes so complex in mammals. Just one more link and human consciousness is born.
And God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him.
And the story goes on. We watch man's consciousness following this impulse to join with his fellow men again and again. The aspiration is there.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
But they still had slaves, didn't they?
But hell is only a step behind. 100 years later, the United States tore itself in half in a bloody civil war to end slavery.
The high contracting parties, in order to promote international cooperation and to achieve international peace and security by the acceptance of obligations, undertake not to resort to war.
But hell was only one step behind. In 1939, the League of Nations Charter went up in flames, with Warsaw, Rotterdam, Coventry, and more than 25 million people.
We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights and in the dignity and worth of the human person, and for these ends to practice tolerance and live together in peace with one another as good neighbors.
In spite of the wars in Korea, Vietnam, Nigeria, India, and the Middle East, we still hope those words can inform our dealings with each other. Always the impulse to unity, to heaven on earth. Always the pit, one step back. But the consciousness of the world is becoming one. In the heavens, man's own stars appear. His consciousness is extended by the machines his mind makes. years ago, computers solved problems a single mind could just grasp. Now, computers pose questions beyond the framing of a single mind. Consciousness itself is growing all the time as the mind of man grows together. And not just to solve scientific problems of populations, food distribution. We are aware of a whole human family as never before. The virtue of family quarrels, in spite of being the bitterest kind, is that they flow from an awareness of family, of responsibilities, duties, obligations, rights, and sometimes love.
The one remains. The many change and pass. Heaven's light forever shines. Earth's shadows fly. Life, like a dome of many-colored glass, stains the white radiance of eternity.
We are not yet one family on Earth, but at least we now know we ought to be. The world is a global village. We know how a village can come together. We can know each other, help those who are in need, live together. But a village can be destroyed with one barrel of gunpowder. The world has such a barrel. Will we come together in a kingdom of heaven on earth before we burn the world forever in the fires of hell? There is no other choice. We are committed to leap forward. We fear to fall back. The control of the movement is ours. Between the dancer and the dance is unity. There is no such thing as the dance without the dancer. There is no such thing as the dancer without the dance.
You catch the rhythm with your breath, and it beats through your body in time with my heart. The melody is gathered with your arms and lifts your body to soar in tune with my heart.
But the ease of the dance is an illusion. We know the dancer has made this unity and harmony with effort and maintains it with concentration. The tension that lifts us up and makes us catch our breath is the knowledge that the dancer is always only a millimeter from disaster. All the time there is the pit, the chasm one step behind. And where does this lead? if we draw the lines forward, if the pattern of the cosmic dance becomes so rich, so complex, that all mankind is united together.
I danced in the morning when the world was begun, and I danced in the moon and the stars and the sun. I came down from heaven and I danced on the earth, but Bethlehem I had my birth.
Dance then, wherever you may be, I am the Lord of the dancing key, and I'll lead you all, wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dancing key.
I danced on the Sabbath and I cured the lame. The holy people said it was a shame. They whipped and they stripped and they hung me high. They left me there on a cross to die.
Dance then, wherever you may be, I am the Lord of the dancing key, and I'll lead you all, wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dancing key.
I danced on a Friday when the sky turned black. It's hard to dance with the devil on your back. They buried my body and they thought I'd gone, but I am the dance and I still go on.
Dance then, wherever you may be, I am the Lord of the dancing key, and I'll lead you all, wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dancing key.
Love is not the icing on the cake, a mere adornment. It is of the essence of the stuff of life itself. It is at once the impulse to unity and the adhesive.
Love seeketh not itself to please, nor for itself hath any care, but for another gives its ease, and builds a heaven in hell's despair.
Blake's vision of love. But he also saw that a perverted love, inward-looking, closed up, would have a very different ending.
Love seeketh only self to please, to bind another to its delight, joys in another's loss of ease, and builds a hell in heaven's despite.
Hell is the failure. It is also the fear of failure. The experience of both is the legacy of all creation. Heaven and hell are the two sides of the coin of life. Without the experience of division, there is no consciousness of union. Hell is at the same time the starting point and impulse to heaven. Hell is the threat, and heaven the promise.
But who's threatening? The God of love.
I called on thy name, O Lord, from the depths of the pit. Thou didst hear my plea. Do not close thine ear to my cry for help. Thou didst come near when I called on thee. Thou didst say, do not fear.
The fear is hell. In each one of us, in all of us, is fear. It is dredged from the deep human and animal memories of enemies. And from the present reality of tanks and planes and images of violence. The fear comes from the pit and is as real as heaven. Without the freedom to choose, heaven becomes hell.
How could anyone choose hell?
They do, all the time.
There are no shortcuts to heaven. The beehive, the ant-heap, the herd of wild beasts, all these show us unity, but not heaven. Only man can achieve that, because only in man is love incarnate and conscious. The principle of unity drives the bees together, but man is conscious. He must choose.
Your slightest look easily will unclose me, though I have closed myself as fingers. You open always, petal by petal, myself, as spring opens, touching skillfully, mysteriously, her first rose.
Only the open flower can be fertilized. The coming together must be free. To possess is to kill. Blake captures this feeling.
Bend to thyself a joy, and its winged life destroy. kiss a joy as it flies, and live in eternity's sunrise.
Heaven is the prize taken, the challenge accepted, the union bought with self-sacrifice, self-realized, self-united.
At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards, at the still point, there the dance is, but neither arrest nor movement. And do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered, neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline. Except for the point, the still point, there would be no dance, and there is only the dance.